Okay, I'm ready to start working on the upper part of the shoe. I remember, as I said before, that the upper part is actually 3 layers of fabric. 1 layer is the outside layer, then there's the lining, and there's also a layer of interfacing. And I'm going to make interfacing out of a piece of this fabric by pressing a piece of Wonder Under onto the fabric. Wonder Under is a transfer web, a paperback adhesive web that turns any fabric into fusible fabric. So there's a paper piece that comes off. I'm going to iron this on. Later on I'll trace the pattern, but in the next step I'm going to demonstrate. I'll show you how to create the pattern for your shoe. Be back soon. Okay, I'm back in the studio and I'm getting ready for the next step. In a minute I'm going to show you how to make a pattern for the cloth part of your shoe. The clay is dry now, and before I do the pattern I'm just going to do a little bit of shaping with an emery board. Hardy clay is really easy to sand with just a little nail file. It's better to wait until the hardy clay is dry if you want to do some smoothing than to add a lot of water and try to smooth it while it's wet. This is much easier than trying to get it smooth with your finger and water. You don't want to get it too wet anyway, so I recommend that you wait until the clay is dry to do your smoothing. Okay, now for the pattern, I'm going to use this material because I can see through it, but it's soft and it doesn't tear. It's some kind of packing foam, the real thin stuff. This works for me. Take a square and cut to the middle and place it over the foot. It might be a good idea to pin the back if I can find a pin. but you know what? I forgot something. I'm gonna have to start over. I forgot to tell you and to do this, that I like to sketch the top part of the edge of the shoe where I want the actual edge of the shoe to be. Okay, that's an important step. Now when I put this over the shoe, I can see where I want to draw the pattern. Okay. If I could find another pin, I'd pin it right there. That'll hold it. Now, I'm going to trace the shoe, starting in the middle of the back. Now we have the shape of the upper part of the shoe. And let's see, I've got the right foot. So I'm going to mark this with an R on top. And when I go to do the left side, I'm going to flip the pattern over. But we should be able to use the same pattern for the right and the left shoe. Okay, now I'm going to take a piece of the Duralar and I'll be able to make a much better pattern piece for working with because it'll have some stiffness to it, and I can also smooth it out when I draw it with pencil. Well, the R is backwards, so this is actually the left shoe that I just drew, the top, and this is the right shoe. Okay. Okay, I'm going to turn off the camera for a minute. I'm going to cut this out, and then I'll be back with the next step. Okay, I'm ready for the next step. I have a piece of the silk Georgette that's going to be the interfacing, and I pressed this piece of Wonder Under transfer web, so you can see when I peel this off, this side is going to be sticky, and I can iron that and stick it down to another piece of fabric. So I'm going to trace my pattern onto the Wonder Under. I'll do this side and then flip it over and do the other side. Kind of doing it on the diagonal. This is the kind of marker I use to mark on the top of the shoe and also on that pattern. This pattern, this is a permanent marker, and that's what works best on these materials. So I'm going to go ahead and trace around this now, and I'll be back in a minute. So now I have drawn around the pattern pieces, and now I need to carefully cut out these shapes, and I'm going to cut just inside the line. If I cut the outside of the line, it's going to grow a little bit bigger than the original pattern, and I want it as close as possible to the original pattern. So I'm going to carefully cut just inside the line or on the line. So I'll do that next. Let's look at the pattern a minute, in case we get confused later on about which is the right and which is the left, because it does tend to get confusing sometimes. If you look at the pattern, we're looking at the right side. The outer side of the right foot tends to have a longer, kind of a curved edge. The inside of the foot is a straighter line. So later on, remembering that might help to keep things straight. So now we're going to decide, do we want shiny satin slippers or do we want the more dull side of the fabric? I think I'm going to go with the satiny, shiny side. So I want to put the right sides together when I put the lining and the upper part. This is going to be the outside of the shoe. This piece here, this is going to be the lining. And the lining, I'm going to press that piece that has the Wonder Under to the lining. So I'm going to press that to the dull side of the lining, and then after that's done, we're going to put the right sides together, the two shiny sides, and sew those together. So I'll go ahead off camera and peel the paper off of this Wonder Under, flip it over, and iron it onto this lining piece, and then I'll be back. Okay, I have ironed the interfacing onto the lining, and when you do this part, you want to make sure not to get too close to the edge. You don't want to be any closer than this, because you're going to be cutting a seam allowance here and pretty much all the way around. So you want it in the middle with a little bit of excess fabric around it. And then we're going to pin these right sides together to the other piece of fabric. To hold the fabric. And what I'm going to do next off camera is I'm going to come in with a short stitch and stitch right along that edge, because that's where we're going to turn the fabric before stitching the backs of the shoe. So I'll do that next with these, and then I'll be back. All right, I'm back, and I stitched along this edge through the 2 layers on the sewing machine with a narrow stitch, starting a little bit back from this will be the back seam of the shoe. And then the next step is to trim away, leaving a narrow seam allowance, and clip the curve. And finally, the next step is to turn this inside out and press it. So I'm going to go finish that, and I'll be back. Now I've turned and pressed this seam as best I could with my iron, and I've made an observation. It's been a while since I made a pair of these shoes, and I'm thinking now that what I want for the top of the shoe is the piece that has the interfacing attached, because it does look cleaner and neater. You can't see the seam allowance through the fabric. So this is actually going to be the top of the shoe. And so looking at this, I can see that this is the inside of the foot, and this is the outside of the foot. So this piece is going to be the left foot. And the next step, which I've already done here, is to trim the excess fabric away, leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around and at the back. And the next step is to sew the back seam. And I'm going to do that on the machine as well. I'm going to open this up and match the seam and sew along that edge, and I'll get a little bit more of a seam allowance, and also sew. You might want to sketch with a pencil where to sew there, and then when I turn it, we'll have the top of the shoe. So I'm going to go finish that, and I'll be right back. I'm back from the sewing detail, and what I ended up doing was stitching this to a piece of tracing paper to stabilize it. So let's see what we've got here. Still working on the back of the shoe. I haven't pressed it yet. I just wanted to show you what I decided to do, and this worked pretty well. I'm going to take a chunk out of the seam allowance right at the place where the upper seam is, and I'm going to also take a little chunk out because it is a little bit of a curve there, so I'm clipping the curve and then trimming this a little bit shorter. So now when I turn it, it's going to go into shape. Better. Okay, now I'm gonna go just touch it with the iron. Be right back. Okay, I think I've worked out which is the right foot and which is the left foot. I tried these on. I studied the shape and tried them on, and I think that that's going to work for the left foot. And this is good for the right foot. So now for the glue. Glue is always kind of scary. This is, the glue that we use is called Ultimate Crafter's Pick. And we like it for everything. And it doesn't come like this. We put it in a little plastic Ziploc bag, and we cut the corner so that we can squeeze out just a little tiny bit at a time, however much you want. And I'm going to start with this foot and start applying some glue to the back of the heel. I want a fairly thin layer. Just going to spread it out pretty thin. Okay, I'll carefully insert the foot and put the seam, the back seam, right where it needs to go. And at this point I can reach under and take the lining material and adjust it so that this top seam looks the way I want it to look. I think there's a little bit of time to make some adjustments. If I tug on that little bit of excess will disappear down into the lining. Okay, I think that's going to work. I'll go ahead and do the other heel now. All right. Might be a good idea to make sure that's going to stay there, because it'll help stabilize it when we work on the rest of the shoe. going to lift the upper part away from the lining, because I'm just going to be gluing the lining down at this point. Okay. I'm going to try not to get glue on my rubber sock because it will make it hard to pull the shoe off if it gets glued to the sock. Okay. Okay, let's put this down again and see how it looks. If I pull on the lining, it helps to bring that fold right there down. I'm going to put a little bit of glue just right along the very edge. Here. To give that lining something to stick to. There it is. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now, what I'm going to do is trim off all this excess lining material so that there won't be a lot of bulk underneath when I glue the rest of the material down. Okay. So all there is to do now is to glue this part under. Looks like it might be a good idea to trim and clip a little bit of the excess away. That back seam. I'm a little bit nervous about clipping the toe. I don't want to make a mistake and clip too far, so I'm just going to try rolling the fabric with the toothpick. What's that? Okay. I don't know if I want to start at the front or the back. I don't know if it makes a difference. I guess I'll start at the back on this one. Spread the glue. I think I'm just going to go ahead and spread glue all over. See what happens. think I'm gonna cut a little bit of this excess away up here. Hope for the best. Okay. Okay, that's the basic idea. I'm going to let the glue dry, and I'll be back to put the sole and the heel on the shoe.